10 o'clock. If I'm up past 10 o'clock, it's a bad day.
That's for sure. Let's see.
But thank you guys for joining. As you come in, if you want to, please put your where you're from and what you do, if you teach a grade level or if you do something else within a district.
Stacey, remind me again where you sent the Google slides.
I sent it to your Gmail account through the Wisconsin Science of Reading.
Okay, got it. Yep, there it is. Okay. All right, I'm going to put this in the chat, everybody. This is the Google link with all the good information in it that Stacey's sharing with us today. Okay, we have 1 more minute. We'll get started.
Okay.
Oh, we have someone from Hawaii here. Very good.
Yes.
Very cool.
I've been twice. It's amazing.
It is
Guys, if you click on the link, I think it's going to ask permission. So I'm getting some emails I hear popping up. So after this is over, I'll make sure to go in and give you access to them.
Nova Scotia. Hey, Jill, welcome. It's awesome.
Thank you. It's
Maryland.
exciting to be.
Wonderful. New Hampshire. This is great. Michigan. Pennsylvania. Okay, wonderful. All right. Okay, we're going to get started. I want to welcome everyone tonight for joining us. Stacey and I met, I don't know, a couple months ago. She reached out to me and we had a lovely conversation on the phone, and I think she got pretty fired up. She was pretty fired up when we started talking, but then she really got fired up. And so this is kind of a result of her determination and professional dedication to the mission. So I have the honor of having her here, and I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to share what so many of you ask all the time about: how do I get the mission out to other people in my district or in my county or in my state? So by way of introduction, Stacey Haynes has had a wide variety of teaching in different areas during her 18 years. She has worked with students from all walks of life and all levels of learning in grades as early as pre-K to as high as 8th grade. For the last 5 years, she has been teaching special education. Stacey was only introduced to the science of reading this summer, but since then she has been on a personal mission to learn as much as she can to make a shift in her own personal teaching and hopefully the help of other teachers in the district making a shift as well. Well, we're so glad you're here, Stacey, and it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Donna, and thank you for having me. When she asked me to do this, I have to admit I was a little scared because I am so new to the science of reading world, and I am by no means an expert. Everything I've learned has pretty much been a result of joining this Facebook page. So thank you so much for being an admin and helping guide us in our journey to better our teaching as well and our advocacy, what we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So like Donna said, my name is Stacey Haynes, and I'm very new to the science of reading world. This summer, I learned about it while I was on the beach in Ormond Beach, Florida. My friend that goes to the same place that we go to was sitting in the chair next to me on the beach and said, "Hey, do you know anything about the science of reading?" And I said, "No, I've never heard of it." And she said, "Well, our district, in fact, our whole state's moving to science of reading." So that got me interested. I started looking up about science of reading, got hooked up with a Facebook page, and basically it just kind of lit a fire. And I just wanted to find out everything I could, because from personal experience, I grew up in the 80s. And everybody knows 80s was kind of the heyday of whole language. And I feel like that really was hard for me because I did not learn phonics. And I've always had a really difficult time with spelling because of it. Sometimes when my students ask me a spelling word, I'll be like, "You know what, let's look it up together," because I'm scared I'm going to get a phonics rule wrong or I'm going to spell a word wrong. So I've always had that in me, and I've always known that that was missing in my education. Don't get me wrong, I had a great education. I worked for the school system I grew up in because I love it so much. But I knew that that was something that was missing for me. So when I saw this, it kind of all just clicked together for me. And, as a teacher, when something's good and when something's right, when something's clicking with your kids, that. But you also know when something's not quite right. You have to do something to get it to where it needs to be. And that's where I kind of felt myself. I'm in special education now, and we're trying to fill in those gaps, and we're trying to raise those kids up to be on grade level with their peers. And my department and my school does a great job of that. But I felt like, again, we were just missing this little link. And I really felt like phonics was kind of where we were at and where we were missing that link. Before we get started, I really, really like this quote. Phonics cannot be treated like salt on a meal, a little here and a little there, but not too much because it could be bad for you. If you aren't familiar with Emily Hanford, she is really one of the people that kind of started this whole debate again and kind of introduced everybody to the science of reading. I have several of her articles that I've used for my research, and in the Google Doc in the chat, you can click on that, and actually some of her stuff will be in there. So I really enjoyed her article, and that really hit home for me. And also I put on here the science of reading versus balanced literacy. This is just a little chart that I felt was beneficial, kind of comparing the two. I'm not going to go over it, but it is in the folder as well. So if you are new to the science of reading and don't feel like you have enough of knowledge to advocate for change, you're right where I was. In fact, I told you I've only known about science of reading for about 6 months, so I'm very, very new to it. In my district, we are balanced literacy. That would be the official program or framework that we use. A lot of people know balanced literacy, Fontes and Pinnell, reading recovery, Lucy Calkins, units of study, literacy lessons that was developed from reading recovery for special ed students. Those are all things that we're familiar with in the balanced literacy. And when people hear balance, they think, yeah, that's great. Balance and everything's good. We eat a balanced meal because we want a little bit of this and a little bit of that. We want everything to be balanced for us. And, I agree to that in a certain aspect, but balanced literacy isn't quite getting what we need in the phonics. And that's where I was having the trouble, because I wasn't getting that systematic, explicit phonics instruction. And I felt like that was leaving really big gaps. When I had fourth graders that were saying, "What's a vowel again?" I thought, we're in trouble. We don't even know our vowels in fourth grade. And I do mostly inclusion. So we're maybe 1 year behind, maybe not even a year behind in special education. So I'm not working for the most part with kids more than 2 years behind at the most. So I knew that we had to find something to try to supplement and help. And when I found out about science reading, it was really like a life preserver. Like I was in the ocean and I was trying to find, and I was researching and trying to find something that would align. and our district would approve. And then we found out about science of reading. And that really, like Donna said, kind of lit a fire under me. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to have the desire for change and a drive to learn. I can't stress that enough. I'm not an expert. When I walked into my first meeting with our superintendent, I told him the first words out of my mouth is, I don't know if I'm even qualified to sit here and talk to you. This is the first time I've been in the superintendent's office to talk to them. But I just know that I have a desire for this and that I know that we need this for change. And I was very, very lucky because our superintendent came about 3 years ago, right before COVID hit, and he wanted to have a phonics program introduced to our district. So he had already started that, and we had COVID. So you know what happened then, everything stopped, no new programs. Even though we had done some, ordered some phonics programs, we had to stop. We couldn't introduce new curriculum when we were just trying to stay afloat and teach our kids virtually. So with that being said, this year we got an email that said we were going to look at a district-wide phonics program. So that really got me excited. So I'd already been doing a lot of research on my own, and I reached out to him. So what I can say is start with the research. Again, this is not a lot of what I would call meat. There's not a lot in this presentation. I just want to share my experience with what I did. So maybe it can help you have the courage to reach out and speak to people in your district. And the main thing I can say is start with research. Learn as much as you can about the science of reading. There's so many good resources out there. And I'm going to show you a couple just on this slide. One that really, really helped me was the Amplify program. Amplify is a phonics program. You've probably seen it if you're familiar with science of reading. Actually, it's one that my district is researching, but it also has a lot of good information. It has science of reading handbooks on there. Those are also in the Google Docs that we put in the chat. So you can go and just see one of the handbooks. I use that in my presentation with the district superintendent as well as my administrators. It has a lot of great information and easy to understand brain development and how it associates with the science of reading. Also, up at the top, you can see the Science of Reading Facebook page you're obviously a member of, or you would not know about this Zoom meeting. And then down at the bottom, I said that we have my Google folder that I will give you access as soon as this is over, because I've tried to put that all in one place, all the things that I use that helped me research. There was a lot of other things, but these are just some things that I felt would be good to have at your fingertips that you could have all compiled in one place that could help you develop your arsenal, I guess would be a good word, so that you would have it for you when you did schedule meetings. So it's important to know your audience, and we're educators. We are always talking about knowing our who, and that's important when we're meeting with other people, older people too, not just our kids. So we need to know who we're presenting to, and we need to know what our objective is. And your objective can change. It could be different. My objective with my superintendent was different than my objective with my administration. They were looking at it from different lenses. So it had to change. My presentation changed a little bit. So one thing I can say is never put them on the defensive. Never put them on the defensive or degrade what they believe, because we are all professionals here. We all share beliefs. We advocate for our students. So just stay positive, have courage, tell them what you believe, what you feel like your kids need, but don't ever put them on the defensive, because, you know, it's kind of like religion. Everybody has a certain belief, and you don't want to hurt them by saying something against them. And people have very strong beliefs about reading as well. That's, you know, we call it the reading wars for a reason. It's been around for a long time, and people have really strong beliefs one way or the other. So really just consider where they're coming from. So in my experience, I knew that there was three areas that I wanted to reach. One was the superintendent. I wanted to introduce him to the science of reading. That was my goal. That was my objective. I wanted to thank him for his efforts to bring phonics to our system. But I also wanted to show him some research that I had found as far as rubrics, so we could look at the programs that we were evaluating as a district. I wanted to have him look at some of the scopes and sequences, some instructional blocks that were examples on different pages, because I knew that he's looking at this from a level and he's going to be doing it for the whole district. So I wanted to make that available to him. The board members that I spoke to were just kind of informal conversations. I just kind of wanted to put the bug in their ear. They knew about phonics. They knew that we were moving towards that, and they were very supportive about that. And I just kind of wanted them to know that I've been doing research and kind of what the science was saying. And then with administrators, I wanted to introduce them to the science of reading, but I wanted to kind of focus in on the data and the way the brain works and the science behind everything. Because at that point, when I spoke to them, we were past the part for the rubrics. We were past the part for the scope and sequence. We were basically in a whole pattern trying to figure out a program to choose. So when I first started, I did email the superintendent. I wanted to make it short, but I wanted it informative. I introduced myself. Well, he kind of already knew me. So I just kind of started talking. But if your superintendent doesn't know you, make sure you introduce yourself, let them know the reason for the email. I wanted to introduce the science of reading and a possibility for a meeting to discuss it, and always end with a thank you. Obviously, they're taking time out of their schedule to even read your email, and they're taking care of the whole district. So be sure to thank them at the end. So this was the email. I'm not going to read it all to you guys, but this was the email that I sent to the superintendent. And I just wanted to kind of expose him to what I was thinking, ask for a meeting, kind of throw it out there. But something that I did a little bit different that I felt was really good. And I like this too, because a lot of times we don't have time to sit down and we don't have time to read these really long articles. So if I can watch a video, or I can listen to a video in the car on my way to work or on my way home, it really helps me. I've listened to this specific video probably 4 times in the car, because it's really helpful in understanding kind of the validity of LLI and reading recovery, and how the statistic and data backing the programs kind of fit in, since we are a school that uses LLI and we use reading recovery. This really helped me, and it kind of opened my eyes and kind of helped me understand how research-based is interpreted and how it can be used, in clearinghouses and things like that. So my superintendent actually did watch this video before we met, and we did have a discussion about it. And that is also in the Google Doc. I did follow up. Donna suggested this video called the Purple Crayon Challenge. And it's just 2 short videos around 10 minutes each. And one of them is teaching a child using a balanced literacy aspect, or a balanced literacy approach. And then the other one is looking at it in a phonics approach. They're short, they're quick, but it really shows, I felt like, the difference in the 2 models. And I felt like, since he was never an elementary teacher, I felt like this could show him, a kindergarten, 1st grade level student working, and kind of give him an idea of what the differences are we're looking at. When I went to the meeting, I had a binder compiled. I had, you can see on the right-hand side, it has kind of a agenda of what I wanted to talk about. But I didn't get to talk about everything, and it didn't go in this order. So you've got to be really flexible when you are talking, because, he's on a time limit. He's taking time out of his schedule to talk to you. But, we did pretty much hit everything I wanted to hit. And I knew, again, keeping your audience in mind, I knew that I wanted to make it easy for him. So if you can see on the right-hand side, I've got different tabs where if he's just thinking about something, he can go in, he can pull up that tab, he can look at the data. I even went further and I highlighted information in there that if it's a long article, he didn't have to read the whole thing. He could just look at it. He could see the highlighted parts, kind of get the gist of the article, look at the data, and use that to help him. And he actually has shared this with, I've had several people reach out to me and say that they have seen my binder. They texted me. I actually met a friend, a now friend from another school, and we had coffee this past Sunday to talk about the science of reading. And she was super excited because somebody in the district knew about it. We weren't even sure if anybody knew about it much. So she was really excited, and to know that my superintendent was really taking our meeting to heart and sharing it with board members. I had a board member reach out to me, sharing it with other teachers that are advocating for science of reading. It really meant a lot. And I spent a lot of time preparing this. So for him to take it seriously and to show it to other people really validated what I did. I stepped out on a limb. I took a chance. I advocated for the science of reading in a district that hasn't had the science of reading or any type of phonics well, I'm not going to say any type of phonics, because we know balanced literacy does have phonics. It's just not explicit and systematic. So it was scary. It was a leap. And to know that he is actually sharing this binder with people, it was really nice. I chose to do the binder so he would have it at his fingertips. I didn't know if he would have a computer, a projector, or anything. So this is how I chose to present my information. In that binder, I talked about my personal journey, just like I talked about at the beginning. I put scientific data in there because, their job is to help the school system succeed, and they need to have science. They need to have data that's going to support anything that they choose to adopt for the district. I wanted to explain what the science of reading was. I knew that he had recently been exposed to it, but I didn't know how much he knew. So I wanted to explain that. Balanced literacy versus science of reading. I put professional articles with highlights like I talked about earlier. I put programs with scopes and sequences, that should say scope, sorry. Optional instructional blocks, curriculum evaluation tools, as well as letters. He was not familiar with letters, except for he knew it was being used in Mississippi. He didn't know if it was a curriculum, but we talked about it. All of these tabs are in that folder as well. So, and it's actually the ones that I printed out with the highlights on them. You can look and find the unedited version online if you would like, but I did highlight, so that might actually help you guys. So my next step, and perhaps the scariest, was going to my admin to talk about the science of reading, because my admin are the most supportive admin I've ever had. They are fantastic. I love them dearly. They support us 100%. They are always checking on us, making sure everything's okay, asking us what we need. But being in a district that is firmly been, sorry, that my allergies are killing me, this changing back from cold to hot weather. But they are, we've been in a district with balanced literacy for so long. My principal's wife has been a literacy coach. My assistant principal was a literacy coach. She's a former reading recovery teacher. So I was kind of scared. I didn't want to offend them. I didn't want to make them mad. So I was a little nervous when I reached out to them. But when I did, I just sent an email. I put it in their court. I explained what I wanted to talk to them about. I asked for a meeting. And the meeting didn't feel as heavy. Like, I felt comfortable with them. They are there to support me, and I know they love me and support me. It was still hard and it was still scary, just because I knew that, the background of our district and, getting something new and unfamiliar. And so I just sent them an email as well. Kind of told them my personal journey. I don't think I'd ever shared with them about growing up in whole language and how that affected me. And I put it on them to ask them how they wanted to meet. I asked them for a meeting online, but I also gave them the option, if you don't have time to meet, we've got a lot of stuff going on right now, I'll do a video, I'll do a screencast, I will present the information, and then when you have a chance, do it. So be really flexible with that. And I ended up doing a projection. I did a Google slide with them because I knew when we met, we would have a projection screen. We have a little meeting room, and I decided that the best way to do that would be with Google Slides. It's just easier for us all to see. We're not flipping back and forth with the binder. And I decided that would be easier for us to see, and just, good to see the graphics that I had with the science, with the brain, how the brain goes through hearing something versus reading something, and how all that was. And my principal really appreciate that. He really liked science a lot. And when we left the meeting, he said, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think we have to be systematic and explicit. So I left the meeting with them feeling really great about it. And they were very receptive. They didn't say anything negative. I don't feel like I've had any backlash from anybody. So it's been a really positive experience. Again, though, I was super prepared. I just made sure that I knew what we were doing. I knew what my goal was. I knew what my objective was. I knew what they needed to hear from me. I didn't give them a lot of fluff. I just gave them the information. And then we went from there. We had our meetings. We had our emails. I followed up with emails. I presented the information. And I think that, the hardest part is just having the courage to step out and present that to people that might not necessarily be on the same side as you are, but at least to let them know your views, let them know what your beliefs are, and also that data and that science that supports it, because I think that's key. If any of you have ever been in special education, everything we do is driven by data. And the science of reading has so much science and so much data to back it up. I felt like that was the common ground that we could all stand firm on, and we could all agree that this is legitimate science research. This is what has been over 15 years of compiled data. This isn't just somebody's opinion. This is actual data. So I wanted them to see that, to know that, and make it a point. So to sum it all up, be prepared, do your research, know your audience, and have courage. Be willing to step out there. I think that the first part and the scariest part is always taking that first initial step, making it your views known, making something that's unfamiliar familiar. So have that courage, take the first step. Once you put it out there, it's their job to follow up. And if they don't follow up and they're not receptive, you can send another email. But, try. That's all I can say is try. Make sure you're prepared. Go in there and present what you know and what you feel is best, and be an advocate for your kids, because that's what it's all about. We're trying to do this for our kids. We're trying to get them to succeed. We're trying to expose them to this science and this program. So if you have any questions or comments or want to talk about anything right now, I hope this helped you. It's not super long, like I said. It was just kind of sharing my experience and what I did. And I hope that you guys got something from it. If anybody has a comment or wants to discuss anything, please unmute yourself and ask away.
Okay, we have a hand up with Jen.
Hey, Jen, look, you've got zoomed down, girl.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. I am in a new district now. I actually left my last district because I did the whole presentation thing, and they just weren't hearing it, and I just needed to get out of there. I was at the middle school level, and just seeing what happens when you don't do this for so long, it was just like banging my head against the wall. So my question is, and I joined late, so I'm not sure if you may have said this already, but is your district still a Lucy Calkins Units of Study district, and they just added in a more explicit phonics program?
I think that our district is still a balanced literacy district. We have not fully adopted a phonics program. We are going through the process right now of evaluating different phonics programs. They have a rubric that the system has developed at the district level. Each school has looked at those rubrics. They've given every single teacher the opportunity to actually have the phonics materials in their hands, to look through it, to use this rubric to guide what we would like to choose as a district. They've really included our staff in it, which is very, very appreciative on our part. And we are going to, hopefully, the superintendent told me by February, have a program, go ahead and order it, and then implement it at the start of next year. As far as if we are moving away from Fontes and Pinnell, I'm not super sure. I think that there might be some aspects of literacy collaborative. You don't have something for 18 years and then just quit it cold turkey and move somewhere else. But I feel like we're taking steps in the right direction. I feel like we're implementing a phonics program. I feel like we're exposing our kids to something they haven't been exposed to in the past. So as long as we're making these steps in the right direction, then that's going to show. The data is going to completely turn around. We're going to see growth. We're going to see gains. And that's going to really move our district. And I think that we'll take more steps in that direction. And eventually our curriculum will be science of reading aligned completely. I think it'll be a process though.
Wonderful. So were they able to take something off their plate so they could fit this into their, so you can fit this into your schedule?
I'm not sure yet, but when I did present to the superintendent as well as the administration, I did say this needs to be something that we can do and not say, hey, do this in addition to what you're doing, because we all know we are just getting more and more on our plates. And we can't just add something in. We already have a 3-hour block for literacy. And if you're trying to get the stuff you've already done, that's already in the literacy block that it's hard to get through anyways, we can't just add this on top. So I'm hoping that it'll be at least 1.5 hours of phonics and things associated with science of reading. And then possibly, I think we will probably keep guided reading because we've invested millions and millions and millions of dollars on guided reading books. But I do have hope that we'll have, instead of guided reading, we'll have those decodables in K1, early 2, and remediation. That's what I seem to be getting from the district. So I think everybody realizes that it cannot be, let's add this on. This is another plate we're twirling in the air. This has to be something that's going to take the place of something in our block.
I'll jump on the train here because I'm in the same district as Stacey. Hey, Stacey. And it has been interesting to see. I actually met with the superintendent, I guess a few weeks or maybe a month after her, and to kind of hear him saying some of the things that she and I had talked about. I think it's a learning process for him too. And the more he kind of has learned and uncovered, the more he's realizing what a big shift is going to be necessary. He was telling me in our conversation that another school in the district, a principal, had bought decodables to use for her school. And he said that he was in complete support of that, and that if schools wanted to do that, that they're welcome to. So I think, like Stacey said, it's a process, and we are blessed to have a superintendent who is a learner and who's committed to doing what is best for students. And so he's open to that process. And I would just say too, if there are other people in your schools or other people in your district that you can team up with, I think the more people sending that message and advocating for it, the better. And I'll also say that I teach first grade, and I just kind of stumbled upon this science of reading last year and started implementing it in my classroom. And by the end of the school year, the superintendent's office was in my classroom asking me what I had done to raise student achievement so much. So even if you by yourself are able to start implementing this in your classroom, students are going to grow, and the difference is going to be really noticeable. And so even if you feel like you're by yourself, you can still make a big enough change that will bring people to your classroom to say, what did you do? So you don't have to feel like you have to go all the way to the top to make a change. You can make a change with your students in your room that will have an effect on your whole district.
Yes, Rachel, I meant to tell them about that, how you had such great gains in your first grade room implementing a phonics routine, that our data people from central office came and talked to her. That is absolutely amazing. I'm doing LLI, and I do LLI for part of my segment, and then I do a phonics component. I just kept on Donna and looking on the website and asking, what can I use? What can I use that's free? So I've been supplementing with Spire because it's free. It has a lot of online resources. So I have been supplementing with that and have noticed a big difference in decoding with my kids.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Jacob, I saw your hand raised.
It's Jacob, Julie, and Susan. Okay, Jacob first.
Jacob, Julie, and Susan. Oh my. I just want to say first, thank you. This was so just exciting. I can tell that you are someone who excites people easily. So thank you for doing that. I'm kind of on a similar journey to you. I was in a district, or am in a district that had no curriculum my first 5 years of teaching. And so we always just sat down, looked at the reading standards and built a scope and sequence for the year. And just on happenstance, worked our way into, you know, a pretty good routine with teaching phonemic skills and going through the comprehension standards. Not perfectly, but it worked. But then this year, we purchased Lucy Calkins' phonics, reading, and writing. And that purchase led me down a rabbit hole this summer of discovery, because I was reading the guidebooks going, this doesn't feel right. Why does a phonics curriculum only teach 7 letters of the alphabet? It was very scary, very overwhelming. And similar to you, I've gone down the path of meeting with the head of reading instruction for the county, calling the school board, meeting with administration. You know, like our head of reading instructions, very much so into the, you know, Lucy Calkins world. Like she wears an I Love Lucy shirt. And when I met with her and shared with her, her response was to ask me if I had a master's degree. So point being, as for anyone who kind of is in a similar boat of like, maybe you don't have that awesome superintendent that you can go to. It's been very helpful for me to just broaden my coalition. So like I've reached out to my local NAACP chapter and I've talked to them about the great work going on in Oakland and Fairfax, Virginia. I've started talking to, like, whispering in the ears of people influential in the PTA. I've started talking to my local county council and just trying to, like, because so many people don't even know what curriculum is being used in school. So be able to talk to them about like, hey, did you know this is an issue that's, you know, one that we can tackle and we can fix and we can unite behind. I just, you know, so coalition building has been very important for me this year to try and build that awareness of like, and it's very easy to say, do you know we have a phonics curriculum that only teaches kindergartners 7 letters of the alphabet? And I find that to be a good, you know, starter to a conversation.
Yes.
So I just wanted to encourage other people. It's not so much a question, more so just if anyone's kind of in that similar boat, it's been encouraging to me to reach out to those people not stuck into the whole balanced literacy versus science of reading versus, but who can just kind of hear the common sense behind it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you,
Thank
Jacob.
you so much.
All right, Julie, you're next.
Hi, this is Julie. I just wanted to thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
And I was also wondering if you could just name a couple of the phonics programs that you're looking into for.
Sure. Our district looked into 6, 2 of those being the Fontes and Pinnell and Lucy Calkins. So they did not completely take those away. They left them in, decided to use the rubrics to look at them as well. So we had the Lucy Calkins, we had the Fontes and Pinnell, we had Sunday, SONDAY, Sunday. We had Open Court, we had Amplify, and we had Saxon Phonics. They had narrowed it down to those 6. So those are the 6. And from what I hear across the districts, when I speak to other teachers from our other schools, it seems like we're on the road to Amplify or Open Court. Those are the top 2 that most of the people have been talking about and felt like fit the rubrics the best.
That's good to hear.
Thank you for that. I just wanted you to know my district also uses Lucy Calkins, but we also, for our phonics programs, we've used Foundations and also
Yes.
Hegarty. Hegarty is all oral, so it's an auditory. It's really quick. We've had a lot of success with that. This past year, we just started doing that this year. We've used Foundations for the last 5 years, I think 5 or 6 years. And I really like both of those programs. So those are just two others that I just wanted to share with you all.
Thank you. I've heard of all of those as well. And I think that narrowing it down is really, really difficult. So for us to have at least 6 to look at and use a science-based rubric was really helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, Susan, you're next.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, hi, thank you. This is very informative. This is very, very new for me. I'm not a teacher, a parent of a 4th grader who was diagnosed with dyslexia, and we are in a district with, all teachers can use whatever programs they want to teach literacy, and they have response to intervention where they use reading recovery and Fontes and Pinnell. And once you get into a resource room for special education, it's back to the teacher can do whatever it is that they want. They are not required to use a particular program. So there's nothing systematic or explicit. We have a superintendent who's very open to meeting with parents, and a board of education that's willing to hear what parents have to say. And I'm interested, you know, it's a little bit late for my child, but I want to be able to advocate for other children. And when I've broached this topic of literacy with them, I've been told, oh, we're working on curriculum mapping. And those curriculum maps will be done by the end of the year. And as if that's supposed to give the magical answer as to why all children aren't learning to read in our district. Do you know anything about curriculum mapping versus you're talking about rubrics? Because I feel like I've been given an answer, but I still want to push because I don't think that's the solution, but I also don't know a whole lot.
Frank, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I'd love to, because we're kind of all, I think we're in the same boat, Susan. So curriculum mapping is not, it's not program. It's really developing, it sounds like it's in district developing of a scope and sequence and kind of building from what we know. And part of the problem, at least what I'm finding, is that you don't know what you don't know. So where, you know, and I don't know where you are, but you know, from my own experience.
I'm in Long Island in New York.
Oh, well, so am I then, Susan. And what district are you?
Port Washington.
Okay, good. So we're not in the same district. But but one of the things that at least that we're doing is we've spent a lot of time doing curriculum maps and working to create curriculum. And what I've learned, because I'm kind of rowing in this parallel boat to all of you, but I'm rowing in the administration boat. So what I'm trying to do is to get buy-in, and it's a different world when you're trying to create buy-in for the science of reading, as opposed, you know, working from my position, which is being a director of literacy, as opposed to Stacey, your position is working with colleagues and really trying to get this from the ground up, because I'm just one admin trying to really make this shine and show everyone the value in this, and trying to change the whole idea of the balanced literacy approach into where we need to go. But I don't want to get off topic of me, but Susan, just for you, the curriculum mapping is really just, you know, if Port Washington, I'm pretty certain that they are vested in the units of study. So really what's happening is that, you know, we can look at what are the units that we're using, whether it's units of study, Lucy's, you know, teachers college units of study or whatever, but what units are we using? And then what I would imagine is happening is that they're kind of embracing backwards design. So looking at what are student outcomes, what are standards, and creating those units based off of that. I'm not sure if they're available to the public or not, but if they're not, you can always ask, you know, what are we doing?
I know as a district that the program that they say they use is Wonders.
Oh,
Um,
wonders.
And when my son was in second grade, the teacher told me that she uses Wonders, and she's the only one in the entire K through fifth grade that uses it. So they have a program, but I believe very few teachers are using it. Everybody does running records.
Okay.
You know, he's a level M.
Well,
And
and that's
Susan, you did-
also, yeah, sorry, go on. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, you said your son's in fourth grade and he's kind of beyond that, but I just want you to know I'm a special education teacher and I've taught fourth graders in reading for the last 5 years in special education, and he has definitely got room to grow, and there are things that we can do to get him on grade level. So don't feel like just because he's not getting that support at school, we can definitely email me and we can set up some things that you could do with him at home to support him, because he definitely has, he can grow still. He's not too firmly rooted in anything. Like we can still have room to grow. It's never too late, just like Jacob said.
Yeah, I've been working on trying to get them to use something that's an Orton Gillingham approach, because I've gotten him private Wilson tutoring, but it's not the number of days a week that it needs to be. And it's very frustrating because he has a resource room teacher who's certified in the program and refuses to use it because she would rather do her own thing.
That's a shame.
Yeah, but thank you. This was very, very informative. So thank you.
You're so welcome.
All right. Did everyone?
Frank, I know you had your hand raised for something else too. Did you have something to add?
Yeah, I did. I guess just going back to what I started with is, how do we get more momentum? Again, because I'm looking at this through a different lens, and I do see value in all of this. And similar to you, it was over this summer that I really started my journey into the science of reading. I've already brought in letters training for 40 teachers right now. And I still have a long ways to go. We're starting looking at curriculum to adopt, but we're not, if you think about it, we're not just adopting curriculum, we're also shifting mindsets away from things that we've done for quite some time, So I guess what I'm asking you and probably everyone that's here is, for suggestions on bringing more science of reading related things to the staff, bringing it to the building level admin, so that people really see this, what I'm talking about makes sense. There is science and, that's behind all of this. And there's a lot of research out there. But I guess maybe it's more for the teachers that are in the trenches every day. And this is what I've been doing. And I don't really want to veer away from what I've been doing for the past, however many years.
Mm-hmm. So I'd like to jump on. So in order to get your staff to change, I think you attended the Shifting the Balance. Right. So that's a real gentle way to get everybody to at least be exposed to some of the shifts that have to be made. And if you are stuck using your, multi-million-dollar curriculum, you can make some adjustments to it if you're willing to understand, A, that there are some things that need to be fixed in this program. B, we can do it if we make these adjustments. One, for the right off the top, no more guessing. No more 3 Qs right off the top. The easiest thing for you to do. Remember, Stacey, I remember I suggested that to you. Buy some decodable books. Okay. Talk about language. You can keep guided reading, and follow a lesson plan that a 90-minute literacy blocks. You don't need 270 minutes for literacy. That is complete overkill. And I think schools are doing that out of desperation. More is better, right? Because they don't know any better, but it's not necessary. Okay, there's other things you can do. So, the science of reading is critical. That is without, hands down important, but so are looking at your systems and structures. How are these? What's going on in my school? What kind of schedules do I have? Is there time we can clip off of, going to walk the whole class down to get their milk? Okay, that's a waste of time, right? You've got to look at how you can make your instruction more explicit and more systematic and more aligned throughout the grade levels. When I heard one of your speakers, one of the speakers here say, everyone does their own thing. Well, you can well imagine how difficult that is for a kid in first grade. Then they go to second, that person's using a completely different system. Then they go to third, and that person's using a whole nother approach to reading. There's no consistency. And so you're going to get what you put into it, a mess. That equals, in my mind, a mess. So if you have a consistent approach to reading throughout the grade levels, I think that's called a vertical alignment, and you'll get better results. Okay, if everyone's doing, I visited a school last week, and they had every teacher had the objective written on a target, the target symbol for the store Target. Well, that was done through a slide, a Google slide. Everyone has a big smartboard in their classroom. And so the target was XYZ, and every class knew what the target was in first grade, second grade, all the way up to 8th grade, because the target was used in every grade, right? They also had the same vocabulary routine. So they all studied the same way of how to memorize vocabulary, and it's done 5 days a week. And at the end of the week, those kids know that vocabulary. They know if it's a noun or a verb. They know how many syllables are in it. They know the definition. They put an action to it. These are all just little routines that can be embedded into your classroom practice that will give long-lasting results for kids. And so it's just not the science of reading. There's more to it, but it certainly is a start. Okay.
And I think, Frank, also, if you make it easily accessible for teachers, so if, say, our district uses Canvas, and if they can go on Canvas and they can look, okay, today on our curriculum map, this is what we're doing. It has the vocabulary you're supposed to use. It's pretty much done for you. You just have to present it to the kids. That kind of helps because it eases that transition a little bit. It doesn't make it as daunting to think, oh, I've got to do all this on my own. It's there for them to access a little bit easier.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions?
I see Christy has a question.
I do. I just wanted to thank you for the information and also for sharing your resources. I am a kindergarten teacher, and I started my science of reading journey because of COVID. I felt teaching virtually kindergarten, I felt like I needed some more tools in my toolbox on how to more effectively impact my children's literacy, my students' literacy. And through that, I slowly started to discover this magical world of the science of reading. And I found out it's not magic. There's, it's science. And I've really tried to learn as much as I can and continue to learn. At the same time, I am a school board member in a different district. And so I've been able to thankfully bring a little bit of, this new knowledge to the district that I represent. And it has been a slow go process, because we are a balanced literacy district. We are a Fountas and Pinnell district, and we've spent millions of dollars on these resources. And, it's a little egg on the face of the people making the decisions. And teachers who have really bought into it, though. They've really bought into Fountas and Pinnell over the last 7 years. It's a really hard sell to get them to see things differently. But thankfully, we have been able to bring in letters training for our district of 7,400 students. So it's a big district. So our district is starting to move in the right direction, like like your district is, Stacey, that you were discussing. But we're starting the letters training, but still pushing Fountas and Pinnell practices. So it's a little inconsistent. It's frustrating. I'm ending my board term this week, actually. I did not run for a second term because I'm exhausted as a teacher. But I wanted to say, and my whole point of sharing this is an underutilized resource for people who are seeking change in districts is state Board of Education groups, because they are in the ears of legislatures. They're lobbyists, and they want to impact education. So getting in the ears of, for example, I'm from New Jersey. I don't know if you can hear my accent, but I am from New Jersey proudly. And New Jersey School Boards Association, they are advocating every day in Trenton, our capital, for for student literacy. But being in New Jersey, they need to learn more about science of reading. So that's where, I've been pushing too at the state level and also at our local level. But sometimes one person can instill change. That's what you guys are doing. And I just, as I end my my term here, I did have another school board member reach out to me tonight out of nowhere and said, even though you're leaving, you've taught us, and we're going to continue this battle. So it's
Right.
so sometimes just the littlest voice can make a difference. And I know for my students in my classroom, I have a co-teacher who knew nothing about the science of reading. And she now is like, I can't even believe, she can't believe what she's seeing. And now she's starting to research. So I'm just so thankful that there's people like you guys, and there's Google Meet or Zoom meetings like tonight, because it just it's like a spark that just keeps flowing. And I'm just appreciative and wanted to share that story, because it just starts with one person and it just keeps growing. So thank you.
Thank you, Christy. And you can be that spark too. You can do it. You're doing it. You're in the trenches as well. I feel like you said, it just takes one spark to light the fire. And like Donna said to me, I wrote her and I said, guess what? The superintendent shared my binder with board members and other teachers. And she said, I hear the ice cracking. I mean, it's just, it's happening. It's starting. Don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen really quickly. It can be a process, but you're your kids' biggest advocates. So stand up for what you believe. Have the courage to step out there and advocate for them.
Wonderful. Stacey, I never would have known that you have never had experience doing this. You did a fabulous job from start to finish. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Donna.
So you're going to keep us abreast of your journey, aren't you? And
yes, absolutely.
We'll all know. And for those of you who don't know this, almost every state has their own science of reading, what I should have learned in college page. It doesn't exactly always say science of reading, what I should have learned in college, but it might say science of reading from Kansas or whatever. So kind of look around and see if you can find it. I'll repost the list. I have it in a Google Doc of who has a state. There's only 4 that don't. So you can be the change for your schools. I just know it. I mean, it's happening. It's happening everywhere. So yay. Thanks again for showing up. We had a great turnout tonight. If you have any questions, I'm going to be recording. This is recorded. It'll be posted along with the Google Doc that Stacey's going to open for us. Okay.
And I will also put my email address, my personal email address in there. I haven't yet, but I will put that in there. So if you have any questions, you can email me. If I don't know it, I'll get you to the right person. And I'll also approve everybody's requests as soon as we get off.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, you're welcome.